Hi. So in these YouTube videos, what I am doing is reading word for word the questions or the comments that have been sent to our counselors. These are years ago. So you can relate, if you do, to what is happening to them. And by hearing me instead of the counselor's response, because I'll elaborate, you will get some, hopefully, good thinking for your own marriage. And my name is Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation, and I started this process over 20 years ago, and it's been very successful. So let's get into this particular message. Okay, married 17 years, 3 children, 11, 9, and 8. We have had financial difficulty for the past 11 years due to unemployment. Recently, our family has gone through a major change of moving to another state. Throughout all this, my husband was always an obstacle in decisions and never made any decisions. I carried the family and found creative ways to continue to meet our needs. He's a nice guy, takes care of our house and works. I process faster than him. I can see the bigger picture, and my focus is always on the family. Arrested development is why husband is the way he is, which did not surface until we had hard times. I'm still married because we have children. I have no connection with him because we are on 2 different playing fields. I feel he brings nothing to the table. Thank you for the quick response. We do respond pretty quickly. You could go to themarriagefoundation.org. I am aware that I need to change my perception of him. When I do change my perception of him and include him on anything, he will say something that will bring me back to square one. Then it takes me weeks to get over the statement, and the cycle continues. He gets a clean slate almost daily, and he'll do something again. I stopped judging. No, she didn't. I stopped reacting. No, she didn't. And I stopped commenting. I stopped everything, which means I am suppressing everything I have. Now, I include him in nothing to avoid anything. I am the father, mother, wife, and husband in this relationship. I am losing myself completely. I do wonder if I ever loved him to begin with. I read many books and 6 counselors. It is all the same. Why is TMF different? Can this marriage be saved? Okay, I am sorry to laugh. This isn't funny from her point of view. I laugh because I see things. It's not that I'm laughing at her. I see things that she doesn't see. I see where she contradicts herself. I see where she sees herself in a certain way and her husband in another way. She says, how is TMF different? But then she asks if the marriage can be saved. So she has, and remember, this is years ago. This is at least 7, 8 years. I don't remember how far back I picked up this particular email to the counselors, but it's long ago. So I don't even know what the counselors told her. I didn't look. I didn't bother. Let me help you, and I'm going to put this in the section on YouTube where it's a description, so you could read it for yourself. And maybe you have some ideas of how she can help her marriage, and I'd love for you to comment and let me know what you think. But what I want you to do first is I want you to hear how I see it, what the solutions are, because I've had a lot of successes. I used to be a divorce mediator. I shifted to this because I realized that the general knowledge, quote unquote, that's out there is useless. It makes trouble. And you could see from some of her statements that they are aligned with, how shall I say, marriage counselor thinking. So I'm going to get a little bit deep on this right away. I think it's important to do that because although she says my perspective has changed, it hasn't. Your perspective is how you see things, isn't it? It's not, well, I'm going to come from this place now. That's not my perspective. And we're talking about her thinking. What does that mean? You have your thinking, I have my thinking. All of us have our own particular thinking. It's how we're identified by others and by ourselves. And what that really means, really, is our habitual thinking, our habitual way of seeing things, and our habitual inner reactions to things. That's our thinking. You know, many of us think what our thinking means is our philosophy. That can sometimes be very different from how we respond to situations. Our philosophy can be very lofty. We always see ourselves in a very high light. Rarely do people, and it's not our fault, but rarely do people introspect. Rarely do they take a look at what happened the day before and go, wow, I behaved in this manner and it doesn't align with my philosophy. I know many people who consider themselves to be very moral people, and they act immorally all the time. So we don't learn these things. And so remember, your thinking is what you have made habits out of. How you react to certain things, how you consider certain things, it's all habitual. Rarely do we use our free will and think, I really need to take a look at this in a different way. So, in her case, her thinking, her habitual thinking, has made her into a victim of her circumstances. Her husband, her children, the difficult financial situation. She sees herself as having to carry the weight of the world. That her husband, I'm not going to get into the details about what she said. I don't want to argue with what she said. It may be very true. But she doesn't consider her husband to be a helpmate in any way, shape, or form. Why not? It's not because of him. She says he works. If anything, at least he's providing some financial help. But she doesn't see it. She sees herself carrying all the weight. And we need to now, because I want to advise her in retrospect, and I want her to understand that how she sees her husband is on a very material plane. He's not providing parenting. He's not providing, I guess he's providing some income, but she's talking about all the things he's not providing. He doesn't see things well. So, yes, she's very judgmental. because she's defining her husband basically as useless. Well, marriage is not about having, and you may argue with me on this, but you have to allow me to take it further before you do. But marriage is not about fulfilling our practical needs. I'll prove that to you. Let's say your husband or your wife gets into an accident and they can no longer be there for you sexually. They could no longer be there for you as a helpmate. They're no longer an earner. They're no longer a parent. They're bedridden and destined to be there for years and years. Do you leave them? It would be immoral because of the situation, but there's a better reason why you don't leave them. Because not leaving them or leaving them based on the morality or immorality is a material thing. No. You got married to be connected to your spouse on a level that transcends all material stuff. So that if the material stuff changes, you still have, and I say this like, well, at least you have something, but it's much deeper than that. You still have that connection of love. Now, we need to talk about love a little bit, because we're not talking about loving how they are in bed. We're not talking about how they dress or how they communicate with you. You see, we are all souls. It's true. You don't have a soul. This is a misrepresentation. As a human being, you could say you have a soul, but as an individual, you are a soul. And as a soul, you have a body. As a soul, you also have a mind. As a soul, you have the ability to connect, and you're supposed to connect with your spouse on that level of the soul, and the soul is love. Love. Now, we could discuss this just a little bit further, because Western psychology has decided that love is an emotion, that love is an abstract thought. And I say to you that they're full of beans. How do I know? Because I personally know, and I'm going to tell you how you personally know too. You've gone to weddings. You know that moment. There's always a moment at every wedding, and it's so cool, when all of a sudden you feel this love just descend within your being. And the mind cannot wrap around it. It's so much bigger, because love is metaphysical. It is not sensory. It is not merely an emotion. It is what we live for as human beings. As human beings, we live to experience love, because that is our true natural state as a soul. And in marriage, we particularly get married in order to do that safely, because our world is not a safe place. But when you have, and I call it the sacred space of marriage, when you have this space, that within this space you can exercise love freely, because both of you decided to do that. Now, by now, I hope you've already subscribed to the channel. Please do if you haven't yet, because there's so much for you to gain by learning these things that I discovered. This learning how to love unconditionally is what marriage is all about. as a human being. You are entitled to, you deserve, you are meant to be happy all the time. And that happiness is supposed to be increasing on a constant basis. And when you're learning how to love unconditionally, because trust me, I've been at this a long time, I still don't have that perfected, but just the effort. And you have to learn how. But making that effort to learn to love unconditionally brings so much reward. Love has no boundary. So learning to love unconditionally means being in tune with what love actually is. You're not creating love. And this is the big thing that is missing in this particular woman's mind. She never understood that this is the foundation and the purpose of marriage. So all of these other things, these material things, are crowding out the happiness. The love doesn't go away, but they're buried beneath these things, these material concerns. If she were to change her focus entirely, if she would learn these things, and hopefully she did. We have been offering courses, one for men and one for women, and the primary foundational thing that I teach people is how to gain mastery over the mind. And it is a process, and it's not such an easy process. It is an uphill battle. I can give you the tools, I could give you the direction, but you have to put out the effort. When you do, you are packaging all of these material, quote-unquote, necessities, and they get out of the way so that your heart, which is what you are, starts to express itself in your behavior. This is what's wrong with her marriage. It's not her husband being a slow learner or anything like that. All of that is irrelevant. We are beautiful, infinite beings. We're souls. And we've been trapped in these bodies. We have these minds, but no one teaches us that we're supposed to use the body, use the mind to express the love, to express the happiness. And this is what's up in her marriage. What's different about TMF? Well, if you don't have that figured out at this point, you never will. Because the world of Western psychology, which is the world of common knowledge about marriage, is all about solving problems. They never go away. Problems don't go away. It's one problem after another. But there shouldn't be any in your marriage. None. There should be no arguing. There should be no hostility. She's filled with anger. And again, you'll have to go back and read it in the description section. You have to learn how to control that anger. It isn't her husband who is making her angry, but it's how she perceives his behavior that's twisting her into this victim of anger. Anyone who's angry is a victim. Period. There is no other way around it. There's no such thing as being happily angry. It's just not true. Now, there are people, I've known some very lofty spiritual people who have used anger on their disciples, not more than one. I've been around. I have been searching my whole life for these truths, and Marriage is like the ultimate spiritual path. And there are people in other types of spiritual paths, whether they're priests or ministers or swamis or what have you, because they're in all religions, who will use anger on a student to get their attention. But that's not what's going on here. She's feeling anger, and it's controlling her. Who wants to be controlled by anything? We have free choice, free will. It is up to us to learn how our mind works so we could gain control over it. And that's the first place we begin with our course for men and our course for women. They're different courses. And there you go. What's different about TMF? Right there. We show you how to be in charge of your own mind. What does that mean? It means that when something happens on the outside, you learn how to control how you perceive it. And then your inner reaction. You take those habits one at a time and you turn them into positive habits of responses. That's the biggest difference. I've seen other programs, and I'm not counting marriage counseling. It does not work. But I'm talking about other programs where they tell you, don't argue. They don't tell you, here's how you should argue. You should never argue. They tell you how to smile at your spouse. You married this person because you love them. And you should always be communicating love to them. So I think that's a lot of information. I think it gives you insight. I do hope that you're going to watch more of these videos. Let me know about how you like this approach, where instead of we're just, most of the videos we have, we focus on like a key word or a key phrase that has been taken out of a question or a comment that came to us. In this, I'm reading the whole thing to you. You're going to be surprised at how deeply people get into their problems, how they express it. And it's our job here at the Marriage Foundation, and I hope you listen to our podcast. It's our job to sort of find a way to communicate with them where they can start to see, oh, wait a minute, because it's not that easy. We've been inundated with misinformation. Let me know if you like this. If you like this style, this approach, we're here to serve you. So go to themarriagefoundation.org, see what we have, take advantage of us. I've written books, we have these, and I'm telling you, these courses, I don't care how bad your marriage is right now, these courses work. They're designed to achieve an end result of happiness and love. What could be better? Thank you for spending time with me. Hope to see you next time. Take care.